Hello, hello, hello there, everyone. How are you doing today? It's Patricia Hayes here with today's edition of Coffee Time Career Chat. Super excited to be here. If you are joining for the first time, once again, my name is Patricia Hayes. I am an executive advisor, career empowerment coach, and authentic networking strategist. And all that means is that I used my decades worth of experience as an attorney and as a lobbyist to help people make decisions about what it is they want to do next in their lives with their careers and their business, and how to leverage their network in a way that will help them be sustainable in their long-term success. I am loving this series that we're doing right now, which is Redefining Superwoman. I'm super excited about this next edition as well. So we're going to jump right in. If for some reason you've missed the previous ones, don't hesitate to go back, catch the earlier versions. I think this is number 4. So there are 3 other Coffee Time Career Chats that you can go catch on my YouTube channel and make sure that you get caught up. So this topic came up earlier, a couple of months ago, as a result of literally watching people deal with different situations and really feeling like they have to, quote, do something because of other people's opinions and how it's playing into the decisions that they're making regarding their business and their career, myself included. So that's when I was like, you know what? We need to redefine this whole superwoman thing, because it is not right or fair to those of us who are wearing this title, sometimes not voluntarily. And so that's why this series started, is like this. The whole goal is for women, particularly those women who are goal oriented, ambitious, really probably overextended, because that's why you have that superwoman title, to recognize when it's time to put a pause on things, reset, so that you can move forward in the best way possible. That's what we've been talking about. So today we are talking about changing your cape when others don't like your new outfit. Don't y'all love this? I really am going to play this whole analogy out to the very end. So just deal. Okay, so here's the thing. When it's time for you to move on, everybody's not going to be happy. That's literally first point. Real talk. Everyone is not happy with your next level choices. And for you, as the person who's going to be dealing with this input, we just simply have to learn to accept it. Not to accept what they're saying, but to accept the fact that everyone is not happy for you. And that is a really tough thing. Speaking from experience, it is really tough, especially the closer people are to you, friends, family members, colleagues. And last week we talked about, or maybe previous week, we talked about how we can't do things just because we need people to understand where we're coming from. That's not a good place to be in, or to dumb down what it is you're trying to accomplish so that it can meet other people's expectations. That's not what we're doing. And when you've reached this point where you're like, you know what, this cape I've been wearing, it's time to take it off. It's time to move on to something else. I'm going to change outfits. And you know how that can go sometimes. We're like, well, why are you doing that? And well, don't you think you should? And those moments are not the time. So in these cases, the cape may be a job, it may be a relationship, it may be a project, it may be a business venture. Doesn't matter what it is, but the point is, when you reach a point where you've decided, you know what, it's time to pivot and to go in a new direction. Not just, well, okay, maybe I'll massage a little bit. No, we're talking like, nope, it's time for it to go. You have to be willing and able to stand firm in that decision and know that everyone is not happy. Doesn't matter the reason why they're not happy. Your boss could be mad that you're leaving them. Your family could be upset because they're like, this is a really good gig. Why are you walking away from that? Um, your family members, those are really tough. Other family members. So there's always something, but that's the first thing, is accepting what is going to happen, because I can almost guarantee you that there's going to be at least one person who doesn't get it, and you have to be willing to accept that. It's a part of the process. When you're growing, everyone does not grow at the same rate that you do. Everyone doesn't grow at the same rate. And so when that happens, you have to acknowledge, not so much as just a, hey, I can't believe you're not supporting me, because there's some of that, right? Let's just be honest, we're human beings. But it really is from taking that step back. Remember, we talked about that last time, about taking a more objective viewpoint. And when you step back and you realize, you know what, we're not growing at the same point. We're not growing in the same way. We're not growing towards the same things. And guess what? That is okay. So everyone doesn't grow at the same rate, and it's okay. Accept it. Maybe a little tough, could be a little, some tears shed, but it's going to be all right. That much I can promise you. I don't promise a whole lot, but I can promise you it will be all right. It's just a matter of time. Because guess what? Time does not stop when it's time for you to move on. That opportunity that's being presented to you, where you're going to have to make this decision about what it is you do next, it may not be a long lasting opportunity. It may be something that has to be done in the moment, whether that moment is a few minutes, a day, a week, or a month. But in that moment, that decision has to be made, and you are the one that has to make the decision. All right. And when you know that you've been carrying a lot of things, the weight of other people, the weight of responsibilities, whatever it might be, and that it's time for you not to carry that weight anymore, you have to be okay with acknowledging that with other people, because this is about your own self-care, about your own personal and professional growth, and doing what needs to be done to move forward, which takes us to point number 2, which is you must be prepared for the crab bucket effect. Man, I remember when I first really understood, when someone explained to me this whole thing about crabbing and crabs and how they act. Oh my gosh, it's just so really kind of amazing, really terrifying, but also just really like fascinating. That's the word I'm looking for. Really fascinating, because here's the thing. When you have a bunch of crabs in a bucket, I'm sure I'm not going to explain this perfectly, but this is the concept. When they go crabs and you have a bunch of crabs in the bucket, there may be one crab that's trying to get out of the bucket, maybe a couple of them. They're trying to get out of the bucket. But here's what happens. The other crabs are like, no, 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 where are you trying to go? So they literally start pulling on that crab that's trying to get out, and they start pulling them down so that they can't get out. And they will pull them down to the point that there's literally harm to the crab that's trying to get out. So they may lose a limb. I was like, that is so crazy. But how appropriate is it to our lives today? When people don't understand, don't agree, and or don't support you, they can start grabbing on you to try to keep you from making that next level decision, from changing that cape, from pivoting. Why? Because they don't want you to get out the bucket. They don't want you to get to that next level. It doesn't matter why. Again, it doesn't matter why they don't want you to get there. Just know that there are people who don't want you to get there. It totally may have nothing to do with you. It may seem like it's being put off as an issue that with you, when it's really probably an issue with them, right? If they've not achieved the goals that they want to, they're jealous, there's envy, there's all kinds of things. There's insecurity that maybe you're not going to be the same person. Like there's tons of reasons. But here's the thing. They have nothing to do with you. You are an excuse to try to deal with them not getting out of the bucket. So they're like, well, let's just keep her down. All right. Y'all like that analogy? I'm full of them. But it's a really great one that I love using because visually it's so impactful and it's so accurate. And these are the things we have to be prepared for when you're trying to pivot, when you're trying to do a new thing, when you're even considering it. You may not have even made the decision about doing it yet. Here's another tip. Make sure you're really careful about who you share those decisions with, especially if the decision has not been fully made. I know that some years ago, when I was looking at making some moves with one of my positions that I had, I did not want everybody to know what I was doing because I wasn't really sure if it was going to happen yet or not. I really didn't. So, excuse me. So I was really deliberate about who I reached out to. I went what I call several circles back. Yes. So not people that are in the closest circle or maybe even the two or three closest circle, but like, maybe four circles out to folks who I respected, who I knew or thought were concerned about my well-being professionally, and that who could give me some objective advice, some objective insight because they didn't have any skin in the game. That's the problem when we share some things with people who aren't ready for it for a number of reasons is a lot of the time, especially friends, especially family spouses and or close colleagues, they have skin in the game. What you are going to do may affect them in a very real way. So they may not be able to give you objective insights. Now, if you have a friend, a family member, a close colleague who can do that, hold them near and dear, all right? Because they are few and far between. Most people do not have that capacity, not without going through some major growth experiences to get to that point. Okay. So be mindful of that. Not saying don't pursue it, just be mindful of who you're sharing that information with, especially while you're still trying to make the decision about what the next step is, so that you can do so in a way that's not going to give you the added weight of other people's problems, of other people who aren't ready. Because the reality is that's not your problem, which gets us to point number 3. Change capes on your terms, guilt free. This is so important. It is so easy, especially when you're getting to people that you know, your family, your close friends, and there's some kind of way that they're affected or they think they're affected. And so it's really super easy for people to start laying on the guilt. Well, if you do that, then you won't be here. If you move for that position, you won't be around. If you take this, then that's going to affect how our money flows. I mean, there's so many reasons. So many reasons. And we as superwomen are always trying to accommodate these contrary things that are going on. And that's something we have to learn for ourselves, so we don't need to carry that weight. Right? Just because you can and you know how doesn't mean that you should. I literally just had this conversation with someone. Just because you can does not mean that you should. So when you're changing capes, when you're looking to make that pivot, make that a part of the pivot, to not carry other people's weight, to make sure you do it guilt-free, because when you do it guilt-free, you are going to have the potential for so much more growth at a much faster clip. Here's a couple of little sub points on that one. The first one being, do not own other people's limiting beliefs, because a lot of times that's what's going on. They have issues or concerns because in their perspective, they can't see that happening. But that's their limiting belief. Guess what? I bet you, if you're like me, you have your own set of limiting beliefs that you have to deal with. So the last thing you want to do is assume someone else's, right? There's no room for that. There's no space for that. Okay. Especially as you're going. The second one is you really have, you really have to ignore the shady rhetoric. What does that look like? Well, gosh, aren't you going to have some problems doing X if you do that? As opposed to just laying out, hey, I have a concern. What about X? What about this? Right? Those little sly remarks that people make when they're insecure and not able to say what they really think or feel straight out. Ignore it. It's shady rhetoric, and you don't need the shade. You are trying to glow in the sunlight, my friend. Do not let someone else's shade block your sunshine. All right. So that's one of the things you absolutely have to nip in the bud very quickly. That's a boundaries thing. We talked about boundaries in one of the in an earlier week. All right. And then lastly, wear it proudly. When you change that cape, wear it proudly. Walk tall in the decision that you're making. Right? This is part of doing it guilt-free. It doesn't mean that you're being callous. It doesn't mean that you're not aware that's going to impact other people, but you also have to walk strong in knowing that this is the next best step. And when you do that, hopefully those folks will come along and be able to support you down the road. But if they don't right now, it's okay. They don't like the new cape, it's okay. Right? You shift how you interact, you shift what you share, and you keep moving because you have to grow. Do not let your growth be stunted by the limiting beliefs, by the shade of other people, other situations, right? Because a lot of time people, they don't know what you're doing. They don't understand. And we can learn how to do this so much better as we grow and experience. Guess what? There are lots of things that in previous years I might have been like, why are they and what are they? But now I don't even ask questions. I don't know what that's going on in that person's life. I don't know what decisions that are being made. If I'm blessed enough to be able to have that information shared with me, then I will gladly be as supportive as I can, ask valid questions in a non-critical way, or just mind my own business. So this is back to that whole treat others how you want to be treated. Absolutely. Because if you don't want people questioning you when you're trying to make some big decisions that are going to be extremely impactful for your future and for your career, then you have to be mindful of how you interact with other people in the same situation. Makes it so much easier to think about when you view it that way. Okay? That is it. We have been redefining Superwoman. We've been talking about what happens when she needs to change her cape and how to not let others affect that decision. I'm super excited to be here. I look forward to following up with you. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me in the DMs or to send me an email, and you can reach out to me through my website, patriciabhayes.com. All right? Looking forward to following up and to the next and final episode in the series. All right, take care, and I'll talk with you again soon. Bye-bye.